Alright, hello. I just wanted to do a little video about my problems with these viral math problems that go around every now and then. And really, they're just a question of doing order of operations correctly, but they're sneaky in a way that leads to a lot of discussion on the pages and generates a lot of clicks. And in my opinion, problems like these, I don't like them. They're like artificial ways of getting a lot of activity on like a tweet or a post on Facebook or Reddit um, with very little effort. So there's two answers that people following correct logic in whatever way you want to assess it could get to, and I'll show the way both of those answers work here. Yeah, sorry. So over here, I will show uh, one way, which I believe is the more popular way that I see. So, for order of operations, you start with the parentheses. So, stuff in the parentheses. 2 plus 2 is 4. So, we'll get 8 divided by 2 times 4. Because this means multiplication, right? So, you're doing all this stuff in the parentheses. It's 4. You've got this, and now you're just left with division and multiplication, which by order of operations you do left to right. So 8 divided by 2 is 4, and 4 times 4 is 16. Now this is one possible answer that you can get with consistent logic following the order of operations. Now I'll show the other answer, which I personally like more, uh, but this one, I feel like most places on the internet, is considered wrong. So we've got 8 divided by 2 times 4. We do the same first step as before, but just by adding these numbers together does not necessarily mean the parentheses go away. Parentheses are still here around the 4, and so to resolve those parentheses, we do the multiplication first, and you get 8 divided by 8, which gives you 1. Now, neither of these answers on their own are incorrect, uh, looking at this problem, but if you were in a elementary school or middle school math class, this would be the correct answer. And if you were in a high school late algebra or college level calculus class, this answer would probably be more correct. But the problem is more to do with the way the problem is written than either of these answers. So this right here, like I said, is the answer that most people on the internet accept as the correct answer. And I'll say correct with quotation marks around it, um, because this problem is just written very poorly. The problem really stems from using this division symbol in conjunction with parenthesis type multiplication. Uh, and so this division symbol is very archaic. People in serious mathematics very rarely use this symbol, unless it is very clear what the symbol means. So in like elementary school math, um, we like having, the four operations each have their own nice little symbol, so you can write everything out neatly. And it is a lot easier to understand for young children than some of the later forms uh, of particularly multiplication and division. So these four symbols, when you are only using these four symbols, things make a lot more sense. So using these four symbols, we would actually rewrite the problem like this. 8 divided by 2, and then make sure to use this symbol before you put the parentheses in. Because generally, in this level of mathematics, where you're first learning order of operations, these parentheses, you're not going to use parenthesis multiplication because that's confusing. You're going to use this x multiplication symbol. And so this problem very clearly would be solved like this. There is no ambiguity on how to treat the multiplication like there is when it's written like this, and therefore 16 is the only correct answer if the problem is originally written like this. The here's the thing about parenthesis multiplication. Later on in algebra, when you start algebra in like early middle school, you start working with variables. Um, and so we don't like this multiplication symbol in algebra or this division symbol very much. Because, well, the most common variable to use is x as a variable. So, you know, you could have something like I'll write it somewhere else. You can have something like 2x plus 5 equals 15. Uh, let's say, no, wait, 2x times 5 equals 50, right? And x equals 10 here. It's very easy to get that. Divide by 5 first to get 10 and 2, and then x equals, um, I said x equals 10, x equals 5 here. X equals 5, sorry for that mistake. Because you can divide by 5 to get 2x equals 10, and divide by 2 to get x equals 5, or you can multiply 2 by 5 to get 7x equals, no wait, 10x equals 50. I cannot math. But this confusion right here between these two symbols, we generally like to use dot, like just a little dot here for multiplication, times 5. This would be a more correct way to write it in algebra. And I mean, the symbols mean the same thing. But this doesn't have the problems of ambiguity. And we also don't use this symbol in cases where there's parentheses. So if we did 2x plus 5 here, we wouldn't use a multiplication symbol here with the 2. The parentheses here mean multiplication, which most people solving this problem know. So you could also have, you wouldn't use this multiplication symbol here. You would just know this. Something that happens in algebra is we change the way we think about parentheses because of this parenthesis multiplication. And I'll think about it like this way. Let's go back to that first one that I wrote down and then erased. 2x plus 5 equals y. We use another variable there. And we can put in here that x equals, let's just throw some stuff in here. X equals y minus 5. I don't know if this would actually solve to a correct formula, but let's just say that. And when we substitute this two item equivalent of x in here, we'd put it in parentheses. And in that way, this x is kind of like parentheses. When you substitute something in for x, you get these parentheses. And then no matter what, you're going to be multiplying this 2 by the x before you do anything else. And I know I'm not explaining it very well. So I'm just going to return to the main problem here. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. If we just have this on its own, but we rewrite it as 8 divided by 2x, this implies right here that this 2x is 1 unit. You always want to simplify this 2x before uh, you divide it into the 8. So this is not 8 divided by 2 times x like this. It's 8 divided by 2x like this, if we wanted to write it with more clarity. So this right here is how this would be treated. And if we say x equals 4 and plug it in there, and we treat it like this right here, we get 1 as an answer. Um, Now, a lot of people don't like this because we have, uh, PEMDAS, parentheses first, and there's nothing to do inside of these parentheses, so you would think you move on to multiplication and division from left to right, which does make a lot of logical sense if you do not believe that writing it this way with the parentheses around the 4 is any different than writing it this way with a multiplication symbol. But if we think about it in an algebra setting where this 4 could be, plugging in this x variable, uh, you'd use these parentheses and you treat it like this. So you get 1. Uh, but the biggest problem with this type of equation, and if is mixing this symbol right here, this division symbol, with parenthesis multiplication. This is my biggest problem. Generally, you would not do any math in any level of math, you would not use these two symbols with each other. Parentheses, yes, you could use with this division symbol, but it has to be set up like this. You cannot use the parentheses as multiplication. The parentheses are purely grouping um, and not implying any operation. But the problem with the way that this problem is written is that it's sharing using this symbol and this symbol. Because generally in contexts where parenthesis multiplication is used, so like algebra and calculus situations, we use the fraction bar to denote division. So it'd be more, if we wanted to rewrite this problem in a way that would be more consistent with the way you would write it in algebra or calculus, sort of like how we did it here, to be more consistent with how you'd write it uh, as you're learning order of operations in elementary school math. Uh, we can move it over here, and there's two ways to write it depending on how you interpret this symbol. And the way that, well, okay, actually, no, there's not, the way that symbol is interpreted is consistent. You divide the thing on the left uh, by the thing on the right. But the main problem is, do you interpret just this 2 as the thing on the right, or this entire portion as the thing on the right? And in algebra or calculus, we would subscribe to this idea because of the same principles as here. Um, this 2x would be 1 unit, and it would be treated as this. And so this would be treated in the same way. Like these are invisible, but there's like invisible parentheses around this whole thing. Um, and we would actually write it like this. Which would give you 8 over 8, which is 1. Uh, but like if you did interpret it differently, like you would over here, here's how you would write the problem, consistent with the way that we would write it in like calculus or algebra. It would be 8 over 2 times 2 plus 2, like this. Uh, and so very clearly, this would be 8 over 2 times 4 I just wrote a 4 instead of a 2. This is a 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. Uh, and we get 16. So I hope this makes some more sense to anybody who stumbles into this video and maybe is confused by what leads people to get, different answers to the same problem. It's mostly because there's ambiguity uh, in 3 different aspects here. It's how you interpret uh, parenthesis multiplication in terms of order of operations. It is how you interpret this archaic division symbol in terms of calculations. Uh, and it's also whether you're thinking in terms of elementary order of operations or more algebra-based order of operations. Uh, and, I'll end this off with a disclaimer. I am a sophomore in college studying music education. I'm not a mathematician or even a student of mathematics. I haven't taken a math class since high school. But this is just the way that I see this problem, and I hope that some people will see this uh, and maybe understand what I'm talking about. I wanted to make this video for a few months now, and I got the motivation to do it today. But thank you very much for watching.